Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome to the Dance of the Soul. And the reason why Regan and I talk about that being that is because we all go through something. And our soul dances from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, if you choose to believe in that. And we talk about the dance of the soul because the soul dances, like for me in my physical body, Regan in his physical body, well, actually the soul is more like this, that it's one of those things that we go through life, and the soul goes along with us. So it dances along with us and tries to help us out in lifetime, but not everybody hears it. So with this show, we like to help people learn how the soul interacts with us as we go. And many times we just talk about emotions. Sometimes we talk about past lives. Sometimes we talk about this. Sometimes we talk about that. So it's not about anybody who, if we push on your belief system, please just put everything that we're saying in the back pocket, because maybe there's something that might trigger you into thinking about life just a little bit different, a different perspective. And we would be grateful to help you with that. So Regan Forsten is a hypnotherapist through the Newton Institute, and he does a lot of other types of therapy. And I know that, the tapping, and I keep forgetting the name. And I might actually have to have my somebody I know dearly to me watch it for you. Go to your website to watch it because of something he's going through. So with that Regan is here to help, and I'm Natasha Venter, an intuitive medium personal awareness coach, and we love to support you. And Regan, welcome to our Monday show. We are here every Monday at 4 o'clock Pacific time.
Yeah, for over a year now.
It has been a year and a half. Well, September was a year.
Yeah.
I'm so happy we're doing this. This is like my dream. This is my dream come true, is to be here to support people and speak to as many people as want to hear.
Yeah. Well, today we don't have a guest, so we thought we would talk about this problem that everybody seems to have to some degree, and that's being stuck, stuck in our lives, stuck in the past, stuck in relationship, stuck. There's so many ways that as human beings we get stuck, and when you're stuck, just like the word, it's just like glue. There's glue, or you're walking on a pile of a room full of gum, and you can't move. You want to, and you want to change, and that something needs to happen because you just can't keep going on the way it's going on. But that's what coaches come in, like you and I, that we try to help people get unstuck. And what we could talk today about is what we call reframing, and get into that a little bit. And that's like sometimes a situation, some people are stuck in looking at it in one way, when actually there's many, many ways of looking at something. And depending on which way you choose to look at it, you can either be stuck or unstuck. What we try to do in our therapies is just to try to help you look at the situation, try to help you reframe it in some way. And sometimes it's as easy as that. People don't realize, like even the basic thing of choosing to look at a situation as being a victim or not a victim, that can, create a world of problems for you, or it can free you in a lot of ways. So Natasha, I'm sure you've got clients that, that's what we deal with. A lot of times people come into us and they're stuck in one way or another. And what would you say are some general principles as far as helping a person to reframe things, to, get out of their unstuckness?
Well, one thing that, like, I was talking to a coworker today, and I'm there just a short time, but, she was going, I'm amazed at the perceptions of everybody. The perceptions. I mean, we've got like one student who, it's like, you'd say boo to him and he's in tears, because his perception is that, he's so just, challenged so vibrationally, that that he's just one that has struggled, and if something changes, I just can't comprehend. That doesn't work for me. How can we go into line when I have a home lunch? Why should I go into the lunch line? Well, it's a half day. How can I get a lunch? I mean, he's just spinning because the perception is different, or because
Yeah.
that's his perception. How can he go in a lunch line when he has a home lunch? And I'm like, because everybody splits off. Everybody splits off. If you have a home lunch, you go here. If you got a school lunch, you go there. No, I can't. Nope, 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 nope. And it's like, but him and his young mind, you have to let him spin, because there's no, all you can do is hold space for him,
Yeah.
where in a more older person, or more elder, as you get older, you can kind of have conversations about things. And that's where, we can do things with the mind, and the mind likes to control us. The mind truly likes to control that perception that we have. And that's the one thing that I have really navigated through. And I use the word navigate because sometimes it's like a ship, going through a really thin channel, going through, and the ground, the cliffs come down, and all the ship has to go through, like right here, so it's like navigating through something that is very, sometimes really thin. And I was talking with someone yesterday, and they were talking about how they were in a bad relationship, and now that they're in a better relationship, they can't get out of that bad relationship that they were in. And I kind of went down to where, like for me, I was in a bad relationship, alcoholic husband, very emotionally abusive, because he was so depressed. So the only safe place was to go out to the ones that he loved. And so he would scream and yell, and nothing. One day I made French fries instead of instead of mashed potatoes, and it was the end of the night for him. And the whole house was in disrupt because I didn't make what he wanted, and because he was in his drunken state. And and then I had to live with him after he got sober. So I had to go from living with an alcoholic husband to living with a man who was slowly healing. And a lot of people might say that I had PSD to what was going on, because it's, being yelled at for 20 years, you get shell shocked a little bit. But, how did I get there? How did I get to that point of seeing that healing can happen? And and I would suggest this with anybody, that it's first off just saying that this is not, that was then, this is now. That was then, this is now. And if that's the only words that you can have during a moment, because sometimes that's all I could do is that I couldn't trust him, but I can trust that I would be okay. And I've learned that through time. And so with that, I would have to say, that was then, this is now, and I trust. That was then, this is now, and I trust. And I would just get those words. Sometimes it was just, I had to find something to stop my brain from going down the rabbit hole, and sometimes it's that process of finding language, sticky notes, in your car window, on your steering wheel, in the bathroom, when you first wake up, your lampshade, when you first wake up, whatever you can do to shift that mindset, because of the fact that our mind wants to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. And that's a bad place to be. It's like once you get a little ways down the rabbit hole, it's really, and the further you go down, the harder it is to get out of sometimes. So it's good to learn skills to, when you realize that you're starting to go down the rabbit hole, that you can nip it in the bud, so that you don't. They're on your nightstand. Sorry.
You're good. I love life.
Yeah. Patty, she needed her car keys.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's perfect. I love it. I love life. I love that, we're human. That's the thing that I want people to know is we're so human. We have had to go through life. And so most everything that we're talking about, either we've lived it ourselves or we've gotten it through osmosis through watching other people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've practiced because we didn't want to go there, you know, down that rabbit hole as much as we could have, if that makes sense. And so it's one of those things. Yeah, it's we're living in a negative world. We're living in a treacherous world. We're living in these moments where why am I not good enough?
Yeah.
Why am I not good enough? And it's a treacherous place. But yet perception is huge.
Yeah. Well, I think this is hard. I mean, it seems easy to do, but it's hard. But what person keeps having to tell himself, especially like if somebody's stuck, let's say somebody abused them earlier in their life, and then every time they think of it, it feels to them like it's kind of happening to them now, even though it's not. It
Mhm.
happened way far in the past. But the subconscious, when you bring up that memory again, it brings it back to current time, and
Mhm.
it makes it feel like you're being abused today when maybe it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Um, so what I have clients just have to continually remind themselves is, I'm not being abused right now. I'm safe. I'm in a
Mhm.
safe place. I'm no longer, like a prisoner of war. When they came back with PTSD, they would wake up still feeling like they were, caged, and
Mhm.
that, this, and they have to just keep telling themselves, it's okay. I'm safe now.
Mhm.
I'm no longer there. But it takes a while for the subconscious to get over that,
It
and
does.
that's why it's so important to get treatment for PTSD, of which for people out there, of course, some people think PTSD just has to do with veterans and being around that kind of thing. PTSD could be as simple as being in a car accident, or maybe somebody mugged you at one point, or anything that was a severe violation of your space.
Mhm.
It leaves a big, big mark on you. That's really hard to get over. So um, the main thing they're using for that now, well, three things that work really well for PTSD, and to let people know that they don't have to be stuck with the PTSD.
Mhm.
And three modalities I know that work really, really well and really, really efficient and really, really quick. One is the tapping, which you were talking about at the beginning of the show, the EFT.
The
So,
EFT. Mhm.
so anybody watching this, if you look for some videos on EFT, stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Actually, if you go to my website, that's the best place to start, because I have you go to visittheafterlife.com and click on the tab that says EFT. And there's two videos on there. The second video on there is for veterans. They have severe post-traumatic stress. So if you're watching it, put yourself in the chair where you're watching them with whatever your PTSD is from. Now you'll see four veterans go from crazy. I mean, they're like this, when they're
Mhm.
talking about their issue. Their legs are shaking. They can't talk right. Their eyes are like scared, because they're thinking about this issue that they had with the PTSD. But watch on the videos, and you'll see that after 4 days of doing the EFT, working with a good practitioner, they're calm. They're able to talk about their issue. They can't believe they can talk about it calmly. They You'll see them where they've their body is calmed down, where it's normal again.
Mhm.
That some of the veterans will say their nightmares had gone away. One guy stopped drinking for the last 4 days and never felt better. He says he doesn't feel like he needs to drink or take drugs anymore because the issue has been dealt with. And then
Mhm.
we tested him 6 months later, and these four veterans had kept most of the gains that they've made. So they're even doing this with rooms full of veterans now, sometimes 14 to 20 at a time, because there's not enough therapists. And just initially, they go through, it's about a 3 hour program that they go through, and the veterans test scores, or they do a whole intake thing where they mark, from 1 to 10 with this.
Yeah.
There's about 40 different parameters that they do. And then right after the 20-minute or right after the 3-hour group EFT tapping session where they're all tapping, watching the facilitator tell them where to tap on themselves. And then they tested them again, and their symptoms have reduced by about 50% just in one
That's
session.
huge. Sometimes that gets it down to not necessarily livable, but it gets it down to not so acute.
Right. Yeah. And then, and then after that, they're suggested to get some individual therapy to get it down even more. But even in that one session, they feel like, okay, I have a breakthrough here.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel a little bit like my old self now, and then EMDR, that's another thing you can look up. And it's an interesting thing because as you're talking about your issue, you're watching, the therapist will have something like either his finger or a pointer or something, and you're watching it, talking about your issue, going back and forth. And for some reason, and we don't know why it works, but it works. They feel that they start down regulating, and they start
Mm-hmm.
feeling that energy from that event dissipating. The best thing we can think of, you're going right brain, left brain, right brain, left brain, as you're going back and forth with your eyes. And somehow that's kind of poking holes in that CD of that memory that you have that you're playing. So pretty soon you can't even play it. You still remember the incident, but you don't have that emotion that's attached.
You get above it instead of into it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I had to really be aware of is that, and I'm so imagery. I mean, it's like if you tell me about a rock on a hill, it's like I'm picturing all the grass holding up the dirt, holding up the rock,
Yeah.
the trees around it. And I'm about imagery. And so for me, like even just going through the stress and the strain of those years when my parents were passing and I was having children at the same time, and just having to do all that navigation, that instead of being down the valley, going down into the story of it, I decided to climb up the mountain and go to the experience of what it taught me. And so there was a point where, in just time and communication with myself and talking about, this was, I'm here now. What did it teach me? Doing those things that I have learned to communicate to myself, that I found myself separating out of the story, and I found myself going up. Not that I couldn't look down and witness into my story and step down in it if I needed to, but I went into the experience of, oh yeah, I was tired. My adrenals really were wrung dry now, and just how can I get into the healing process of it and the experience of it. And boy, I really learned a lot about myself. What were some of the things I learned about myself? Oh, that I'm stronger than I thought I was.
Yeah.
That I had knowledge more than I ever thought I could have. Even though I didn't read half of what I did, but I did what I was supposed to. And just different things that were just my own personal awarenesses of and I even had to check in with my shame and guilt and a lot of those things, because I didn't, being a caregiver of my mother, and taking care of a new baby at the same time, and a 4-year-old and an alcoholic husband, sometimes I wasn't my better. Because I was so tired, not sleeping at night, so with that, I had to work through some of those emotions, but looking at the experience of it, I was able to get out of the drudgery of the story and see where I was at, get a perspective. And that perspective helped me to just say a little different things to myself. It's an interesting process when you can picture yourself almost splitting, which road do you want to take? It's the Y in the road, and one goes down and one goes up. And a lot of people like staying in the story. And I'm going to be honest here that there's a lot of people that get payment for that story.
Right. We call it secondary gain.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a story of I think it was Smuckers, the family Smuckers that has the jams and jellies,
Mm-hmm.
And the lady that started that, from what I understand from the story, was the youngest of like 9 or 10 or 12 or 13 kids. I mean, it was a huge family. And She was in and out of hospitals and sick for most of her adult life and everything like that. She didn't feel good. She'd always be sick. And she finally realized as she got older and became more aware of herself that the reason she got sick all the time is because as a child, the only time she could get attention or someone to listen to her is when she was sick. Otherwise, the mom was too busy with all the kids and everything like that. But if she was sick and she didn't feel bad, she'd get a little attention from mom. So that got put into her subconscious, like, oh, I have a problem. I make my body sick and somebody gives me attention. Once she realized that, she was able to move on from that. But that shows just how the subconscious, how powerful it is. And that, when we want some love, we want something, sometimes we all have little ways that we act or do because in the past that's gotten us attention. So some people that have, I've had people that have, come to me that they want to get better about something, but then when we discuss it more, parts of them doesn't want to let go of it because that's the way they've got attention, or that's the way that, like I say, they get someone to listen to them, that way.
Yeah, and that's where, for me, when I do my sessions, I picture or I get a knowing of there's an energy that stands in front of people. It could be shame, it could be empowerment, it could be life story, it could be, and I use different languages because it's not like a lot of times it's anger or anything like that. Sometimes it's doubt that could be standing in front, but there's something that is the energy that's standing in front that says, wait a minute. And it's almost like something that's turned on too much. It's in fear and flight. It can't get out of that mode. And sometimes when I'm doing a session, I'll ask that to step aside and be a witness of this conversation. We're not taking it out of empowerment. We're just asking it to step aside so that everything can be heard, so that it can. And many times that energy, let's say doubt, I'm going to doubt everything that comes into my life. If doubt was in front and it comes over here, it almost kind of goes, I don't have to be on all the time, and I say to the person that, doubt is a great thing. It makes you conscious of what decisions you're making. But when you doubt everything and you don't trust moving forward, that's when it's in the negative. And that's where doubt is stopping you from going forward. Where take it to the side and see where it can go. And a lot of times when I have that step aside, the person goes, oh, yeah, I can really see where they were controlling my life instead of supporting my life. And many times, and that's where the PSD comes in, and it steps in front because of the trauma. That trauma has been, and it turns into protector. No, I can't have that anymore in my life. Nope. Oh no, that's a loud noise. Can't have that anymore in my life. And when we get that, it kind of comes around where if we do the tapping, it kind of brings that thing over to the side so it can come into being a witness in our lives and be supportive. Okay, that's something that happened in my life. Yep, crap, that happened. That really happened in my life. And how can we navigate through a lot of those things that go forward? And it's that walking forward in life.
Yeah. So people have to know that there's ways of being unstuck. So if you're, whoever's listening to this now or in the future, if you're doing inventory and there's usually a few obvious things, it usually has to do with some abuse you suffered and you haven't been able to let go of it, the anger that you feel, you've not forgiven the person, you're having a hard time, or a relationship you got out of, maybe a divorce or something. And when you think of your spouse or something still, you can still tell that you're stuck there. You haven't moved on, then it's good to find a therapist that's a good EFT person that does hypnosis, EFT, or the EMDR, because those really, really work. And again, nothing changes unless something changes, as we talk about on this show. So, you can't just expect for it to go away. And what I'd have people do is to close their eyes, think of an incident that they know they're still stuck on that's from the past, and ask their subconscious to show them a needle that starts at 0 on the left and goes over to the right it's a 10. A 10 being you're going to punch the walls. This is so bad. And a 1 or 2, not so bad. We can deal with that. But usually if it gets above a 5 or 6 or 7, you got an issue that's actually probably hurting you physically, emotionally, and everything. You're going to probably make your body sick in some way. And sometimes people feel stuck. They go, well, I don't know. I just think of that and it's that way. I can't get out of it, Well, I'm going to show an example right now. Let's say this was a relationship of a spouse that you were married to and you're out of the relationship, but you still have some bad feelings. I'm just going to make up some stuff that I'm one of my clients. Okay. So with the tapping, we usually start with the karate chop point and you talk about your issue. It's like, even though I still hate my wife. Oh my God. They can feel that that's what the feelings are at. They have to be honest with their feelings. They can't say, oh, even though I really dislike my ex, it's like that's some people have a hard time. That's not what they really feel. They're good Christian people or they're good something.
Yeah,
and they go,
exactly.
I can't say, but the feelings.
You got to feel it. You got to
be honest with your feelings. And once you let it out, boy, then the healing can start. So it's like, even though I hate my ex, I'll call her Sophie, even though I hate Sophie for what she did to me, for her cheating on me. Oh my God. Even so, I have this problem and I can't forgive her. I love and accept myself. Even though I have this issue with Sophie that I just hope she just rots in hell. She hurt me so bad. I love and accept myself. And then you go to it's like, even though I have this issue with Sophie and I can't get rid of this hate that I have for her, I love and accept myself. And as you go around to these different areas, you're talking about, I came home and I found her cheating with some guy. Oh God, why didn't I kill that guy? It's just all these things they've been holding in. And as they go around, it's like saying what's really on their mind, what they're really feeling, not boiling it down to something that sounds politically correct,
Yeah, exactly. It's just stuff that you write or draw on the paper.
Right. And what we found out now, and this works, this is what is so magical, as you're doing that, because there's some stuck energy in your body that got stuck on that day. Let's say I walked in and Sophie was having an affair with somebody, and that would be like a grenade went off in my body, an emotional, like punched in the stomach and shock. And what happens is that energy stays at these different parts in your body until you deal with it. That's why I've had clients at 40 years distance from something that happened 40 years ago. When they think about it for a moment, they start shaking. It's like they feel like it just happened a minute ago.
Yeah.
Even though it's 40 years ago. But what happens is, as you're doing this tapping on these different acupuncture points, it searches your body from where that stuck energy is and kind of pulls it back home again. And I watch client after client after client down regulate, And so sometimes, like, I had a man came to me whose son shot him in the head. He was sleeping. His son came up with a gun, boom, and it shot him. Actually, went in his ear, and it came out his mouth. He has a big scar on his cheek right here. This guy was in a Hispanic gang, for years. He spent a lot of years in prison. He got out. He has 11 children from 8 different wives, that he was with, and but he has matured in such a way that he's kind of got out of the gang thing. He's looking spiritual and everything now. But a few months before he saw me is when his son shot him. Okay. So when I had him close his eyes and I said, okay, where are you from 0 to 10? And he goes, 23. Whoa.
Thank you, Patty, yeah.
Yeah. He was way over,
I bet.
So I just want to tell you how this works. It works. We did the tapping for about 20 minutes as he's talking about, like, even though my son shot me in the head, and I can't believe that my son would do that. He knows that I love him. Why did he do that? I don't understand why he did it, even though he did, even though I feel hurt, even though my heart is breaking, because his son died 2 months later of a drug overdose. So they never had any resolution. So that on top of it, his son's dead. Anyway, after just 20 minutes of the tapping, he went from a 23. I said, okay, now check in again with yourself. So he thought about the incident, and his eyes open, and he goes, 4, like that. I couldn't believe
Wow.
it. He came back for a second session. We got it to 0. And on the third session, we tested it again. And as much as he's thinking about it, he says, I'm done with it. I know my son shot me in the head and everything, but I'm not falling apart now. And I'm even doing less meth than was doing before. So he's kind of cut down on the drugs a little bit. But the tapping really, really, really works. And just want to, and I watched that happen time after time after time. And most of us EFT practitioners, we have like something like a 90-something% success rate. So it's almost a panacea for healing post-traumatic stress, for healing
Wow.
things that we feel shame and guilt and that we emotional things that we haven't been able to move on from, So let's talk about reframing, like looking at something from a different viewpoint, different perspective. Yeah. For instance, the basic one, where you're either the victim or you look at life's challenges as a way, is something to grow and learn from. I mean, that's a huge one right there that can change a person's life.
It can, because I know for me that, like, let's say something happens in my life. I'll just say someone yells at me, and it's like the first reaction might be, holy crap, and then I've practiced enough that I say, okay, what's this here to teach me? That is one of my mantras that I go to. What is this here to teach me? And I lived with an alcoholic for 20 years, so it comes pretty quickly to me now, and as soon as somebody yells at me, let's say, giving that example, it's like, what is this here to teach me? Oh, wait a minute. Should I take everything personally, or should I just understand this person has a bad day? So I kind of it puts me in observer mode of what truly is happening, that it might not be about me. It may not be about me. And going into that observer mode perspectively, it's interesting the application that one can come to with having different kind of navigation with somebody, or a different way of applying themselves to somebody. That's the thing about life, is that a lot of us we're in flight or fight a lot in our lives, and it puts us on the rebound. It puts us on the reactive. It puts us in that mode of what, it's always about me. Why is it always happening to me? Well, when we look at life and see things happening that we're never going to, what's the word, be totally right in every situation, because perspective is huge. Perspective is huge, and living life is never going to be easy, especially if we stay that victim. And many of us practiced it well. Many of us come from families that are taught us to be victims. Many of us have gotten into relationships for a long time that we've had shame, and we don't want to speak about that. We put ourselves in this situation. And we put ourselves there so we don't speak. And I know many of us, when we don't speak, for me, I didn't really speak about a lot of the trauma that I was going through with my husband while he was drinking. And my body started hurting. I started having female problems because, if we can't be ourselves and have our femininity and be our womanness, many times our female organs get hitched, because that's about speaking about ourselves. And then we may have liver problems or kidney problems or gallbladder problems, because those are working with emotions and flushing the problem out of the body.
And that's the one thing that they're finding out now too, is that depending on what your issues are, certain particular issues, it's pretty common for them to show up the same place for people. For instance, I had a client who she felt most of her pain in her neck, like when I had her close her eyes, and she's talking about an issue. And I say, okay, where do you feel this emotion or coming from in your body? And it was her throat. So that was a clue to me to, anyway, we really uncovered that her biggest issue was in her life, and especially with her husband, she never felt that she could say anything. She never felt that what she said was even important.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, she said they would be having a conversation with a couple and she would start to talk. He would interrupt her and finish it all the time. So it made her feel like I can't even talk, and it went back to even early childhood when she would try to speak up as a childhood, and the parents would say, like they tell the kids just to shut up, don't, just be quiet. I'm going to talk, in other words, they grew up feeling that what they had to say was not important. Well, once I went through about setting boundaries, and then after a few months, she came back and she says, I don't have any pain here anymore. It's still a little bit, but he says, my husband, blah, blah, blah. And I talked to him about it, and he didn't realize that he was shutting me down all the time. He didn't realize that's how I felt. And luckily she had a caring husband who began to be conscious of that. And so once she started feeling that she could be heard, then the pain and the anxiety and the tightness in her throat areas, began better, so.
Well, that's where one thing that I've noticed is that, coughs, sore throats are either because we're not speaking a truth or we're speaking too much of a truth. So like somebody who was like the husband who was always over speaking might start losing his voice or has sore throats or has those situations, or the one that's not speaking might have some of the same scenarios because of the too much or not enough. Or if we're always in our head too much, we might be getting headaches because we're not getting physical about our lives and working through many things. And our body talks to us all the time about what we're not doing or we're doing too much in our lives. It's kind of interesting.
And do you find too with your clients like mine, a lot of times when they have issues from the past, as they're talking about, like if it's something that happened with a sibling or something, and when they were a child or something that was they're still talking about as an adult, when they start talking about it, all of a sudden they're talking about it like they're 8 or 10 years old, or in their verbiage, the way they're coming out with or something, and have to point out that to them. And I say, you're stuck. You're looking at this from a 7 or 8 or a 10 or 12-year-old person, not from a 50-year-old. And I said, you're a 50-year-old now, right? And I says, we have to update your software, because when they think about that incident and it starts playing in their mind, they're seeing it all of a sudden, they're back into that, the age they were. And I'd say if it was a 50-year-old looking at that incident of 2 kids having this problem, you would just laugh it off. It wouldn't be any issue at all in your life.
But it was life altering at that age.
At that age, right. Just like a kid that comes home 6th grade and he got a D on his report card, and he knows his mom and dad are going to be really upset with him and stuff like that, and they carry that, that shame of having to do good the whole time, or not to have that, in a sense, anything.
You couldn't be imperfect. You had to be perfect all the time.
Yeah. And they have to go, wait a minute, I'm not in the 6th grade anymore, and doesn't matter what I get on my report cards. So it's, again, you have to reframe things. You have to update your software, and people can sometimes easily update the software by just closing their eyes and just kind of talking to their higher self and just imagining, just feeling an energy in their body, and go, oh, I'm getting the download now. All of a sudden now I'm looking at everything like a 50-year-old, and there goes my 6-year-old out the window, which wasn't doing me any good at all. And they, all of a sudden, it's just like they were stuck. So, downloading the software, reframing how you look at things, and thinking in these instances. Now, sometimes if you find out the why, for instance, a number of times people have been abused by their parents or someone that way, like they hated their mom because whatever. Later on in life, all of a sudden they discover that their mother was severely abused as a child, and they see that what was going on in her mind a little bit, and it gives them a little idea of why their mother was the way she was, that she was damaged, and the mother couldn't be a better mother than what she's capable of. And if she was damaged, it's a little hard. And
It
sometimes
doesn't make
people,
it doesn't make it okay.
no,
It
doesn't
doesn't
make
make
it
it
okay.
okay, but it gives it the perception of, oh,
Now I understand.
oh. Yeah, and it's not even that you have to understand sometimes. I find that sometimes there's things that just aren't understandable,
Yeah.
but it's oh, that oh moment. Now I'm going to go back to that inner child part of that you were talking about. Now,
Okay.
see, you put that, you go to updating. What I like to do is that I take the person back in time to that moment and meet up with that inner child.
Yes.
At that time, it's almost like a soul retrieval in a way, but it's going back to that inner child and saying to that inner child and just having a conversation with them, or just even just holding them and saying, look how old I am. Look, I'm
That's a good
older,
way.
and then you'd say, do you want to come up and be with me? And you bring that child up, take the hand, and sometimes they're like, and you're kind of like going, and you stop. Just like you would talk to a kindergartner trying to walk them down the hallway if they know that they're going to the nurse's office and they don't want to go to the nurse's office. It's just sometimes you have to stop and just say, "You'll be okay. You'll be okay." And you walk a couple more, and you just show. Now look at this experience that we had to learn that was not that was not our story. You know, when you walk
That's
forward.
perfect, Natasha. That's good. I have a technique I use when people are in hypnosis where I have them visualize flying out over an ocean. They look down and there's this island there that nobody can see but them. It's like their energy, and they land on the island, and it's the place where they kind of come in their soul self.
Mhm.
That's always happy. Nothing can ever. It's just beautiful there. The animals all know them. They can't even get a splinter in their finger. It's just a beautiful place where they can just be themselves. I have them go to a mountaintop on the island, and then I have them invite their 5-year-old self, their 10-year-old self, whatever that person was, and see them, walking up the pathway to them. And there's a little bench that they sit on, and they're facing their younger self, and then
Mhm.
having a conversation, just like what you said. So it's just a different thing on that, but it really, really helps. You know, uh,
And each person is different. So sometimes I'll do just a meditation where we go, into that part of ourselves that just needs to be healed. Or
mhm.
sometimes I do a meditation where we go back to that child time frame. It depends on what. And sometimes I see a part of them that it's like, why do I keep hiccuping in this moment? This I keep sabotaging myself in a moment, and I'll take them back to that time, that they were, let's say 3 years old in an extra room, and they heard two people yelling and they thought it was about
Mhm.
them. It had nothing to do with them, and have them really listen to that conversation, what was really being said as an adult. And it's kind of interesting when you go do these things. And I've had many people who say, Natasha, that I've gone through counseling for years. I've gotten further in with your session in this one
Yeah.
hour than I've gotten all along, because of the fact that it's that the perception I have is 360,
Yeah.
past lives, future life, what connects to what. And
Yeah.
people always say to me, you have this perception that it's like it's like how to put the fingers together to get a nice poem.
Yeah.
It's like not everybody can do that, and that's what I love, having that ability to help people get
It
there,
is,
to
and
get there wherever there is.
yeah, and you and I, with the therapy, different than regular therapists, is we have that spiritual component. So
Hmm.
sometimes people have such issues, and we're talking to clients. I say, well, let's, just in case, maybe this problem you're having with your parents or this coworker, something, maybe it started someplace other than here, and we'll enter hypnosis. Then they'll go to a past life. We'll ask their subconscious, take us to where this issue started. Was it
Hmm.
in this life or a past life? Sometimes they'll find themselves in a past life, and they'll see that maybe they were, you know, well, for instance, the client that I had, I think about a year ago or so, we talked about this. Uh, she wanted to do a life between life thing, so we got her to a past life, and then we go on to the afterlife, to where my clients go, and she's before the council, and she was a nurse, and there's 3 doctors on rotation that would come in, and there was one of the doctors that was extremely emotionally cruel to her. So much so that when she knew that doctor was going to be in the day, she would sit in her car and have a panic attack before she went in, because
Yeah.
she knows that every time this doctor is just horrible to her. So anyway, we're before the council, which people get to go for. They get to go before a council on the other side. And we asked the council, why is she having so much trouble with this doctor? And one of the persons on the council said one sentence to her. They said, you were very cruel to him in another lifetime, and
Mm-hmm.
she's laying in the hypnosis on the couch and she's going, ooh, I didn't want to hear that. Yeah, I don't want to hear that. But so in other words, she found out the why in that instance. In other words, this didn't just start here. It was a carryover from another lifetime. And about 6 months later, when I talked to her, I said, how are things going now? And she says, I don't know what happened, but it's okay. She said, he's not being cruel to me anymore. And she didn't, I think it was just somehow energy shifted
Yep.
to where she had this other perspective, and it somehow, without him even knowing it, without anything being said, it just dissipated, because now she was able to let go of a lot of stuff, because she thought, whoa, maybe I'm going through that in this life because it was payback,
Yeah.
that way.
And that's why I use the mantra, this is now. This is now. What I'm going through is right in front of me. What I'm seeing is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Mind, body, and emotions. We are here now. And that's where I ask for healing all around me, because of the fact that past lives, whatever can happen, that's the past. That's the past. And living, this is happening now and I'm safe. I'm happening now and I'm safe. I'm sorry for anything that happened before this, but it's happening now and I'm safe.
Yes. That's
It's
good.
whatever you can do to find that language that's positive to help move us forward. And sometimes it's about being in the now. So many of us live in the past or the future, and we forget that now is now. And our emotions are now. Even though they may carry from the past, but they are now. They're reacting to what we're thinking now.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can practice that mindset. I gave my husband the other night, we were talking, and it was a night when he was trying to take me down the rabbit hole. And I think I talked about this last show. He was trying to take me down the rabbit hole, and I said, no, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. And I had a hand up, but I tried to keep it. I actually went to put my hand up, stop, but I went, no, that's going to get a reaction. Put a soft hand up. No, I don't want to go there, babe. I don't want to go there. And we talked about it the next morning. I said, you're doing so good now. It's like he used to stay in that victim rabbit hole for 3 to 4 days, a week, sometimes long, and stay in it. And he bounced out of it within moments of this navigation of what we were going through. And he says, yeah, because I'm practicing enough to know I can see it. I can see when I'm doing it now. I've practiced it enough.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's about practicing. And I know that that's a simple concept, but if you can just say, I'm practicing to do better, I'm practicing to do better, I'm practicing to do better, that's a perception shift.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perception shift. And if you can give that perception a shift a little bit, it's amazing how it's like, oh, like I'm helping this one student that his camel, it's that last straw that's breaking the camel's back. I mean, a teacher can tell him you can't do it, and that would be his straw, that last straw that broke, because his life is so, it's sad what kids have to live through, and like I told him, I said, it's okay to be mad. But what can you tell yourself? I'll be okay. I'll be okay. It's okay. I'll be okay. I'm here at school. I'm okay. I'm at school. It's okay. I'm at school. It's okay. It's just that whatever you can do to get yourself shifting to where you can walk forward. You know, I know that for me, I was having a panic attack. I used to love driving fast in cars, except for that I was on a racetrack that my husband works for Napa, and we were able to ride in the Napa race cars
Oh,
around it. It
wow.
was a short track. So we were going 80 miles an hour around the corner, 140 down the straightway.
Whoa.
And I was having a panic attack going around here because I would see myself hitting a wall. I'm intuitive, so I have to decide, is this something I see? Is this
Right.
something I
Is
know?
this
Is
something
this
that's going to
something that
happen?
is this a stress, a panic, or is this a past life? And
Yeah.
I knew it was a combination of everything. Okay. It was a reality that could happen in another dimension. It was something that has happened in a past life, and it was something that could have happened if I deemed it possible. And so with that as I was going around the corner, holding on to the side, going, I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm surviving. Cancel, clear, delete, cancel, clear, delete. I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm surviving. Cancel, clear, delete, cancel, clear, delete. Because it's like, you know, if you say cancel, clear, delete, like the computer, you know, where you do cancel, clear, delete, and you can delete
Mhm.
something that just happened on your computer, it's the same thing up here. So I use that all the time. Cancel, clear, delete. You know, I'm surviving, I'm surviving. I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive, I'm alive. Cancel, clear, delete. When my mind would picture that episode of slamming into something, cancel,
Mhm.
clear, delete. I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. And so me having that panic attack, you know, it was like, but I survived it because of my language. And I kept saying it over and over again for 5 laps.
Wow.
I survived, and the panic attack hit the first going around the first corner, and it was. And I've even gone down the freeway at 150, 100 miles an hour down on the back of a motorcycle. I know how to ride fast. There was something about this moment where I had you know, where something was in sync that I had to work through it, and that's the moment where I had to do something. Cancel, clear, delete. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. Cancel, clear, delete. I'm safe and safe. So the cancel, clear, delete was what my mind was thinking of. My voice was what could be possible to happen.
I have a friend that has a Lamborghini. He took me for a ride in it a few months ago. I never want to do that again. Oh my gosh, because my body was just not set for that speed. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, it really, we joked about it afterwards, but I went, no, I don't want to do that again, you know, and that was just on the freeway, you know, and he loves speed, you know,
Mhm.
so, you know, that's the way it was. So,
I know,
um,
and for me, like, I probably could have driven the race car and done better, but I was the
yeah,
passenger, you know, out of control of my life. And so it's one of those things that, you know, finding something that's positive in your life, whatever word that is. I'm safe, I'm here, I'm loved, I'm loved, whatever. Well, that's kind of hard for some people to say, but whatever you can say to help yourself move forward, try to shift the perception by practicing that, by
yeah.
practicing that.
Well, you know, one thing too with the tapping that works because some people, even though they know they need to forgive somebody to move on, they'll be honest with me and they'll say, "I don't think I can." You
Mhm.
know, he says, "I did it's so I don't think I can," and I say, "Well, let's just tap for a minute." And as we're tapping, they'll say, I'll have them say this. I'll say, Even though I can't forgive that person right now,"
Mhm.
and I'll tell them to say this. Even though I can't forgive that person right now, I'm open to the fact that maybe in the future, maybe sometime in the future, you know, hopefully before not too long, I'll be able to start forgiving them, but I can't now. I don't know why, but I just can't. But maybe in the future. And just having him do that for a minute. And then about 20 minutes later, I circle back around to there and they're able to start, you know, okay, I'm going to begin to forgive that person, you know. And the same thing because some people can't say that they love and accept themselves, you know. We talked about that because one of the things of the tapping
Mhm.
that seems to work is, you know, even though I have this hatred for this person, you know, oh, even though I just want to punch them, I love and accept myself. They just, when I have them say, I love and accept myself, they go, I can't do
Yes.
it, you know? And so then I'll just have them say, okay, even though I can't say I love and accept myself, I'm open to the fact that maybe after a few sessions, maybe just a little bit, I'll be able to say it, or maybe I'll be able to feel it. But that's all that it takes sometimes to crack that door a little bit to
Hmm.
where they can start being able to love and accept themselves, you know? So that's the other thing I want. Maybe we'll finish up today with that, Natasha, too, is the self-love, you know, the more the least amount. I mean, when you don't have enough self-love for yourself, you're stuck, and it's hard to move on from forgiving yourself for some bad stuff you did, some bad choices you made that caused other people harm.
Hmm.
And you still have that guilt, you have that hurt in
Shame.
your heart, and shame, guilt
Hmm.
and shame. And so in the tapping, you know, it's like even though I have this problem with loving myself, and then I'll say, even though I have this problem with loving myself, and then I'll have them say, I love and accept myself. And once they, you know, then once they can start doing that and doing this tapping, then it kind of, like I say, breaks down the wall. And you can get unstuck from things. You know, sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You know, sometimes say, well, I can forgive other people, but I did this such a bad thing, you know. And the more I live, the more I realize that everybody's done some bad stuff. You
Oh,
know,
I know.
everybody has thing or
every
time
has
in their life.
everybody has something to be shameful of, in perspective.
Yeah,
Everybody has something that they can hate about themselves. So, we all have something. It's that perspective,
yeah.
so that can say, oh yeah, I was very I was very human during that moment, wasn't I?
Yeah. Well,
you
people have
know
to realize that you grow and you change, and you're not the person that you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So again, it's this thing, you know, they could talk to their 10-year, they could their 50-year-old could talk to their 40-year-old self, and the technique
Mhm.
you were talking about, or I was, and just say,
Mhm.
look, man, you made some really bad choices and you hurt some people pretty bad at that time. And you know, I've not forgiven myself since then, but I'm a little wiser now, and I'm truly sorry for what I did. And you'll say that even though I did this bad thing, you know, I love and accept myself. I'm willing to start forgiving myself for those bad choices that I made, because I'm a better person now. I would never do that now because I've learned from that mistake.
Mhm.
You know, I've learned from that mistake. I love and accept myself because I've changed. You know, it's just this, you know, going around and forgive themselves. Some people don't have the benefit of confession like the Catholics do.
Yeah.
You know,
And
that's one.
I'm sorry, I went to Catholic school.
Me too.
Confession has nothing on just having that own your own saying, okay, okay, I was okay.
I felt so good after I said the Our Fathers and Hail Marys, and like I had a clean slate now. Like, I don't have to feel bad anymore because I disobeyed my parents.
Yeah.
Even though we go right out and do it again. But I never really saw the benefits of that until I was older and was like, my religion isn't everything, and I
Mhm.
realized that the church invented the confessional because people had to have they knew everybody was sinners, and everybody had this guilt because people basically are good people,
Mhm.
but they had to find a way for the people to kind of forgive themselves so that they could start fresh and start
Yeah.
over and start over and start over. So, that's really good. But some other Christian churches, they have people confess to someone else from the church, just a person, go to the
Mhm.
pastor or one of the elders there or something, confess your sins. And it really helps people. So, um, by doing the tapping, you're kind of confessing yourself to the
Yes.
universe,
Mhm.
without a person being there, but your heart is sincere, and you're talking to yourself saying, boy, even though I did that bad thing last week, and I'm so upset at myself. I forgive myself. I love and accept myself because, I'm not going to do that again. And it feels good to just let go and just to realize that I did make a mistake and I'm owning up to it. And, however they want to say it in their own words or anything. But it really, again, it takes that, that negative energy that's stuck in your body and kind of,
Mhm.
heals it, puts it back in place again.
Yeah, I know for me, it's like, Well, for example, I'm going a little quickly on the freeway and I pass a cop going, I'm sorry, I really am sorry. I am so sorry. I apologize. I'm so sorry. I'm learning from this experience. I'm learning from this. I'm so sorry. And so I try to take care of it right then.
Yeah.
That, sorry, I was human and I just wanted, it's like, so, and that I grew up with my dad. My dad was a magician sometimes with just being human. And, one thing he said, that he goes, at this minute in time, we have this much information. Later, we'll have different information, and we would have made a different choice back here.
Right.
But we couldn't because we didn't have that information.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we can do is just honor where we were at and say, oh, I effed up. I didn't know anything. I didn't know better to do better. I'll do better because now I have other information. And there's many times where I catch people in my sessions because they're saying, oh, I should stop. You just found that out now. How can you fix that?
Right.
How can you fix that? You just found out now. So now walk forward, shifting what you're doing.
Right.
Practice differently, because of the fact that we're always going to go, nope, we were then, not now. We were then, not now. And, it's one of those things that just, we have to take that, the gas pedal and get off the 100 miles an hour about judging ourselves.
Yeah.
Just take a breath and say, we got it. We got it. Can we forgive ourselves? So I noticed that in your tapping that sometimes you would go down here or sometimes you would do, and then you'd go straight to here. Does it matter?
Yeah. No, once you learn the points, it's like here, it's the top of the head, like the center of the head up here between the ears. And then it's around 3 around the eye, like you're circling the eye right here on the bone, right here by the eyebrow, right at the end of the eyebrow over here on the bone. And you can feel when you touch the bone right directly into your eye. And then it's the cleft of that's the cleft, whatever this part is called right here where that line is. And then the cleft. And then there's one in the soft area here, that goes to lungs. It's usually if you touch in that soft area and you go, oh, that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of tender.
The other one, which I do know because you can't see it, it's like if you went directly across from the nipple to halfway down your body, like on the side,
along the seam, usually the seam of the shirt, but it's around the about halfway down underneath, about a hand width underneath the armpit.
Yeah,
an open hand.
Yeah, and those will cover all the major organs of the body to find that energy that's stuck and release it. Now, Harvard Medical School did a study on this. They hooked people up to machines and had them tap. And this is when it went viral, that the tapping did, because they said, whether you believe in it or not, when you tap, you have a beneficial physiological effect on your body. Because they test people cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And the kids that they had to come in to do this test, when they hooked them up to machines, first of all, they saw the amygdala calm down. The amygdala is where if you're having a panic attack or you're scared or something and it's firing, the amygdala, and they watched it calm down when they did the tapping. Second of all, the cortisol, which is stress hormone, they tested it by blood. After 5 minutes of tapping, they tested it again, and across the board, people's cortisol levels dropped from 25 to 50%. Okay. So we've had people have physical healings if they did tapping for a number of months and their issues went away, because basically what you're doing, you're opening all the doorways to the energy of your body so it can flow freely. And so your body can naturally heal itself. Because when you're like this, the door's shut. The energy can't get to where it needs to go. The anxiety shuts all the doors for the energy going through our body. So as you relax, this energy goes through the body and it can begin, our body is amazing at what it can do to heal naturally if we have all the doorways open, No,
I totally agree. And I know for me that a lot of times when I'm bringing people back from a meditation, that I have them tap wherever they feel called to tap.
Yeah.
To bring whatever they've learned into the body field.
Yeah.
Because
integrate it.
And I find that it's we can work totally wonderfully spiritually, but until we get it physical, it doesn't process through the fullness of
Right.
life.
As spiritual as you want to be, you have to remember we have this physical vehicle here.
Yep.
And that's
It
why you have
holds.
some people that were tremendously spiritual, but they eat like crap and they ruin their bodies for what they put into it because they sicken their body, that way.
Mhm.
I'm a bit guilty of that myself. Too much sugar,
I
but
hear
I'm
you.
getting better.
Yeah, I have my thing too, but I've been practicing
I'm getting
better.
better. Mhm.
Yeah, I like ho-hos. They come in
Yeah.
3 in a package, and I can usually get them to last me 4 days.
Wow, that's not bad at all. Some people, I have a client one time, I picked her up, I had to take her to the methadone center because she was trying to get off of heroin, and so she had to go every day, take a bus to get methadone, which I don't quite understand all that, but it's putting them in a really bad way when they have to do that every day. She had to take a bus every day, an hour there, an hour back just to take her because they wouldn't, but anyway, she wanted to stop get some ice cream on the way back, so she got a half gallon of ice cream. So I'm driving where she should go. She ate the whole half gallon of ice cream, right there, and just boom, 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 boom. All I went, oh my goodness, she got that sugar. That's something,
Mhm.
somehow her body was that way. But
Well, I
I'm
noticed that my husband, after he stopped drinking, he was never a sugar eater, and now he's a sugar eater because of the yeast, and it's just
mm,
the body just you have to substitute an addiction for something else.
yeah, yeah, that happens. That's why
Mhm.
like why some people when they quit smoking and they gain a lot of weight at first, and they think it's the smoking, but I think sometimes it's just that their bodies just has to replace it with something else, something else that
It's
gives them some sort of imaginary or real
Mhm.
pleasure, some sort. So
Exactly. Well, we're at our time, and
we're out of time.
we're at, I hope that people can understand that, going through all this is about finding our greater love for ourselves,
Yeah,
which is part of acceptance, surrender, and that the trust, that we got to, it's that trust of how do we navigate. And I know that for me, going through all the things that I've gone through, that life has shown me that I will be okay. I may not be perfect. I may not have scars and scratches on me from life's doings, but yet at the same time though, I'm here. I'm here, and that makes it okay. I'm okay. And I hope that people can find love for themselves by finding tapping, doing those things that can help them move forward, because the mind, if it's in control, it puts us in some dark places.
it sure
It puts
does.
it in dark places. So how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they could get hold of me at visittheafterlife.com. I do regular therapy online with people or in person if they're in parts of California. But online therapy, especially for the tapping hypnosis, works good online. It sounds funny, but it does. People can go right under and that even online. If you want to do the spiritual therapy, which is to visit a past life or have what we call a life between life session, which I know sounds crazy to a lot of people, but it's real. We've had
Hmm.
65,000 people do it now. That's where you actually go from a past life, you meet your guide, and you go to heaven and back. To get to spend a couple hours there asking questions, visiting loved ones. It's and on my website, Visit the Afterlife, you'll see videos all about that. You can even see a session of a young lady going through the whole process. Also, I'm giving away a book on my called Reincarnation is Real. It's about all the current research being done, and it's for free on my website. You just request it there, and I send you a free copy. So that's how they can get a hold of me. What about you, Natasha?
You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com, and both of us have our emails down on our video here. I am so grateful to be able to help someone look at life with a little bit of a perspective that can say, okay, yeah, I was a little human there. I'll do better next time. Or whatever to do to get themselves so that they can enjoy. We just had another person who in the network that I know who is now gone, and he was just barely 30.
Wow.
And I don't know why he passed, but we've got some young ones that are deciding to leave, and our stories are worth living. Our stories are worth living, and I hope that I can help someone through that. So right now I'm also having a special on my sessions, which is $80 for an hour until the end of 2022 of January. So January of 2022, I will be carrying a little bit of a discount on my sessions, and you can go to my website to find out about that.
It's great.
Yeah, I want to help people through this. Grief is thick during this time, and wondering what the new year is going to bring in,
Yeah.
especially with this COVID. I would like to be more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah. I got my third shot. So,
Yeah,
I was kind of anti-vaccine just, from all of the books I've read and the stuff coming out about the children's vaccines and the problems and stuff. But, you know, when I went to the other side the second time, and that was before the council in heaven asked them about the vaccines and stuff, and they just said, "Well, it's your choice.
it is.
If you want to take it, maybe it'll help you." They didn't really want to, they weren't too worried. I guess in the scheme of things, it's not a big deal.
No,
So
it's the personal journey with the body and the personal journey of how to assimilate things with our body.
yeah, yeah. And I had another one of my clients today. He was on the show earlier. If you remember James, the
Yes,
young man, yeah, and he said
he's
he's
going to
going to
have
be.
some sessions with me.
Yeah, did he contact you?
Yeah.
He's he's going to do a Life Between Life session sometime in January with me too. But he told me he was going to have a session with you because and I really think you could help because he's a warrior right now in wanting to unfold, and
Mhm.
maybe we can give him some pieces to that puzzle.
Yes,
So,
I totally can understand that. And I love to do that.
yeah,
Help the pieces unfold.
right.
And I've had 80-year-olds who want to have the pieces unfold, and I've had,
Mhm.
teenagers who've wanted the pieces unfold. And it's just a gift to say, I can help.
Yeah, we can help,
We're a
just
team.
like people helped us, now we're here to help others. So,
Now we're here to help others.
and we still
So
have people helping us. So,
yes, 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 yes. So next week is the week before the holiday season, and we will be here next Monday at 4 o'clock Pacific time on YouTube, uh, and Natasha at Angelic Clarifications on Facebook and Twitter.
okay.
So, and I will see everyone on Wednesday, same time, same channel, same place. Blessings to all. Have a good
Yeah.
night.
See you all next week.
Bye now.